half the team here, but that's okay because things come up, and we're hoping that this call will help you when you watch it to get on the Barrett site efficiently and effectively. And if we need another call, we're happy to set up another call. No worries. We want to make sure you feel comfortable. But the first thing I would love to do is I'd like to hear about from each of you who are on the call, Lisa, Alex, and Tiz, sort of your reflection and your goals or intentions. And I already got, I was invited to give feedback to Alex on her, was it IDR or an LDR? It was an IDR. So I got her thank you email, and that was delightful to see. And I'm thrilled about how you put it all together. It was lovely. If you want to share your letter with the others, it's always good to see a model and a letter. To share that with others, we can take your name off it, but it's really well written, actually, and clear. So we like to give examples. So if you're willing to share that, we will share it. If not, it's totally cool. But at the very least, I would suggest you share it with the group because it's good. It's simple to do, but not simple because you're being very intentional about what you're working on. So thanks for doing that. So I would love to hear from each of you your big picture reflection, ahas. And it was strange to say that at the end of that call because I knew we're still having more calls, but it's really, that was sort of the bulk of the content. And what this will help me and Carson do is also make sure that we hit what we need to hit in the follow-up calls. So anyway, who's willing to go first? Silence reigns. Lisa's going to say, I will.
I will.
Yeah, see, I knew it. I could see it.
So you want our reflections, our action plan, what we plan to do with it?
Yeah, I would love to hear, just to kind of put a bow on things and see where we are.
So, as someone who has studied leadership for a long time, who's been in leadership for a long time, I truly believe I am one of those humanistic leaders. So values are very important to me. And it just was interesting and I love Maslow. I feel like I've always, as an educator, Maslow's it. We have to meet those basic needs for people in order to get them to that next level. And so I felt like this was very helpful in trying to look at different values and how values really do affect an organization. And when you have conflicting values, and I think even coming off the job that I just came off of last year, looking at that really hit home for me that it was, we talked about it not being a match for me, but it wasn't a bad match for me because we had such different values. So I think that really helped heal some of my, I think I had a little trauma from that because, I've always been successful at everything that I've done. And just to be in a place that I felt like nothing I did was right or, but I really believe is because I was mismatched with my values, and I've always stuck to my values, and they didn't like that. So, but I will always live by my values and be able to put my head on my pillow at any time. And you could see there was a lot of limiting values in that district. It would be interesting to do a values assessment there compared to where I am right now, that it is such a match for me. We do have a lot of the same values. We want to make a difference in the world and do the right thing and treat people kindly and make people feel empowered. So I think I just feel like that really helped tie everything together for me. So that, and then one of my plans is to do this with our leadership team. I spoke with my superintendent yesterday, so he's pretty excited.
Oh my gosh.
And I want him to sign up to take this class eventually. So I talked to him a little bit about that. So that is my plan. I will use my IVAs in my small values assessment with he likes to call it our leadership ensemble. So
great.
We'll do that. That's my plan. And then someday, I hope to, use this and go in and work with schools. That was one question though that I did have, because I know you had mentioned they have there's something different for schools, or they have a different pricing system for schools.
Different prices for schools, and it's on your price list. And when that comes up to do it, we're happy to as is their value center.
And I'm thinking even before I sit down and present with him, I was wondering if I may be able to have some conversation with you about what does that presentation look like? And because eventually that's really what I want to do, because, I'm going to tie this back to my school safety work. And one of the big factors in the prevention piece of, if you're looking at emergency management, if you're looking at school safety from the 4 phases of emergency management, having a very good culture is one of those prevention pieces. And I just think that this ties so nicely into that. And especially in light of everything that's happening, I think, you talk about a market. I think this is a market for this that, I want to discuss further with you, because it's not about just, a market for it, but it's how do we make this a better place?
Right.
Our world a better place.
It goes together, right? Providing a good, solid service and being in service.
Yeah, it really does.
What's true is it's also a market. This is a business.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's great. And when you get ready to discuss it, that can be a topic on a group call, because there's others who would be interested in hearing the conversation.
Okay.
If we need to go offline, we can certainly go offline to have the discussion too. Even though we're talking about a school district or schools, people, when they participate on a call, they hear a piece that gets them deeper into the work. So it's always good to bring those to the group calls or the Facebook. And if we need to do further deep dive, we can do that.
One thing I like to say with this stuff is, regardless of if it's schools or businesses, or I even think individuals, lots of times people think that their situation is so unique, but lots of times when we all talk about it in a group, we're all trying to do similar things, gain interest, pricing, whatever, all that stuff. And that's all relevant under the same umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm not saying that sometimes people think, like, we've had people in the past say, well, we couldn't talk about this on the groups because it's so specific. But the truth is, it's always relevant to other people.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it. And I think, it has a piece, one of the, I'm trying to do some work with school safety, based on all the research that I did. I'm working with a couple different organizations right now, but I think this really ties into, as I put stuff together, to go work with schools. This, I think, really ties in nicely. The culture and the values really ties in nicely.
Great. That's awesome. It's awesome. So you have already got a candidate for the small group assessment. And just a reminder to send a thank you to your assessors, and what you learned and what you're going to do is great. It shows to me, I'm suggesting it. It's not required, obviously.
Sure.
But for me, it just shows an integrity of thank you for your time. Those surveys take a bit of time and thought. And I'm really excited about that, Lisa. I knew that this would be right for you. I knew it. So that's exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
And Tiz, you've been on a few of the group calls, right? They're useful. They're quite useful.
Yes. Can I respond to that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I would have to say quite useful, because at least this is my scenario. I don't have a Carson. Yeah. And so I very much swim alone a lot of the time. And sometimes you can spin yourself into your own thinking, and it kind of halts you. So the calls are, I find, really useful for that reconnection. Hey, there's a whole pool of other people. My God, how did I even forget that there's people I could reach out to? It sounds ridiculous, but it happens. Mm-hmm. And there's something I see almost repeatedly. I experienced it also when I stumbled on the Canadian Values Alliance, that not everybody, because humans are humans, but most of the people that work with values, they themselves are very values-driven people in such a good way that you just feel like, oh my gosh, I found my people. Mm-hmm. And I can learn comfortably from this group of people. I can, you know what, perhaps even be really vulnerable with this group of people as I figure out my place and as I evolve in it, etc., because these people get it.
Yeah.
So that's why I think community is super, super important. That's why I think what you're doing with the calls is awesome and is a reconnect for me. And there was one particular, I think I even responded after the call that said, holy cow, like, thanks for the reminder that there's actually a group of people here that I can tap into and learn from, hear about their challenges, get ideas dropped that you kind of go, oh, that sounds fabulous. And also this sense of, you know what, it's not about any form of competition. There is so much need in the world that that idea can happen here, and you can move around and do it wherever, and there's just so much more that can be done. So get over any fear that somehow your little idea is not going to be worth anything because somebody else will get to it first. So definitely long response to your comment about community. That's what it's been for me. And I've done tons of other trainings, and attempts at community are just Facebook posts that are all energetic after the training and then fizzle.
Yeah, you know, that's actually, we see the same thing in our Facebook. That's why when people send us an individual question, Carson will say, push it onto the Facebook, and he won't answer it. For that very reason. Like, this community, it's a huge commitment to keep a community alive. And I think that we could have stopped the calls many times. Like, sometimes when 5 people show up and there's 60 grads, it's like, crap.
But then they're always so good.
They're always so good, and now get like 4 or 5, sometimes 10 emails saying, oh, I listened to the replay, it was amazing. So the community is listening and paying attention, but it's, you know, it's during workday.
Yeah.
But even now, like, that was back in the day, but now we get like,
there's more.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, and the discussion is like really perfect combination of like practical things, but also like what Tiz is kind of referring to. It's good to talk to people that are doing like the same thing. And like I said, everything is relevant to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, one thing.
And we are, like, we have made a commitment to do it. And I envision, I wanted to have a reunion last October, but it just, we just could not pull the bandwidth together to do it. And you have to have a certain amount of people, so you have enough people to make it worthwhile. There was no, and we were going to partner with the Barrett Value Center with it. And we wanted to focus more on building a consulting practice, and, you know, why do values matter, and integrating it into coaching. And they did a shout out to some of the certified people. I think they just shouted it out to the States, but that people said, no, that's too basic for us. We want large culture transformation. I'm all like, okay. It made no sense to me, because it's like, you don't have enough people in North America doing it, and you have a few people doing it on a broad scale, but you're out because I'm building but we're looking to building it into a coaching and a consulting practice for people. To me, it made no sense. We're like, okay, we'll do a reunion with our people and figure it out. But it wasn't about, like, between us and the Barrett Value Center, we were both very clear. It's not about profit. There's no profit here. What's the exact cost? We'll charge people the exact cost. We want to bring the community together, do some upgrading in our skills. That one was not about business. It's about community. So that's what we now have another round of a year of grads. So we'll try to see how we can bring people together. But the Zoom calls are the best we can do. We're committed. Like, we could have quit the first year and said, well, we're done, but we're not. I'm persisting, because I think in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be huge. We're going to have people networking and collaborating and connecting. It's going to be great. So anyway, on a small scale, it's working, but only because Carson's like, we made a deal. We're doing it. You're not canceling. I'm like, okay. So Tiz, what did you get out of round 2, and what are your plans?
Okay, so I think I shared a little bit about that last week, but round two, I think any repeat of a training that you love, that you're passionate about, is always another logical level. Like, I'm sure I could sit through another training and still pick up something along the way that I didn't quite connect with before. Maybe big picture. Yeah, you know what? I totally knew about the IVA. I think I even heard you say before that, you and Carson have been using IVAs like crazy and whatever, but sometimes things don't land. And I came into this with my challenge question of, okay, how do I get sort of curiosity into engagement? That was basically it.
Mm-hmm.
Like and dealing with my own impatience and frustration around that of, you know what, I'm sick and tired of talking about this. Can we just do this? Can we just do something? And I think what I've embraced is, do the IVAs, offer the IAs, give them complimentary IVAs, and just get that experience happening with the right person, not any person. I've done some of that too, which is using tools for the sake of using tools and then realizing, wow, this isn't going anywhere because they have no means of having it go anywhere.
Right.
But certainly doing more with the IVA. And I haven't really done this yet, but really sitting down to think about what my challenge question was and then go, what really is the answer here? When does it make sense to do a PVA? When does it make sense to just do an IVA? How am I going to pick up the phone, and even with people that I have to refresh a contact with, what are the words that I'm going to be saying such that by the end of that call, I've got them doing an IVA, and just tweaking interest in that. So I haven't done that yet. That is something that I really need to do. There's other little things that I think your invitation to attend this kind of went, oh my gosh, this is the universe saying, okay, we're going to put this in your face again. Just get on with the things that you have in your to-do list. One of them was putting a quick little video on my webpage and to engage the thought of values. Another one was put that 60 to 90 minute session together for like an on-site dog and pony show experiential thing that I can bring into an organization once I've perhaps had that person do the IVA and say, look, I can come in and do this for you with your whatever, and here's what it is. And I've also made this commitment to this TV show, which I really think is just a podcast community of transformation people. So that's got my head going, okay, what's it going to be, and how do I pull this in? And be careful about not, bouncing off into too many generalities, and stick to your message. What is your message? To that particular point, I've also committed to writing a book this summer. Summer. I know.
It is summer.
I know. And it's halfway through summer, but I don't give a rat. Yeah.
We're all family here. We drop F-bombs.
It's a big push. It's a big challenge. And you know what? If I reach, if you reach for the stars and just land on the moon, that's pretty good too. Maybe that's what I'm doing there, but that's something else.
The moon and land in the stars.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's more stars than moon.
All right. Thank you. I probably should get that right.
No, because you'll hit a star and you'll go, look, I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way you twisted that. Nicely done.
Anyway, I think all of that culminates into one simple concept, and that is super clarifying what my message is, what I stand for, what I show up for, and what I want to play in.
Good.
And I think just like the silliness of putting my website together helped me understand what I perhaps wanted to do, then just keep iterations. This book is going to force me to do that. But that's ultimately what it is what the hell do I stand for specifically, clearly, and get on with it, because it's time.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I have to say. This is what I'm all about right now. It's like it's like putting your website together, and then all of a sudden things become more clear, and you couldn't have had the thoughts you had now without taking the first step. And we've done the same thing lately. It's just we've waited to do certain things, and then now we start doing it, even though it's loose. And it's just like, oh, and now it's so much clearer. You can't get. It's like the name we came up for this, community that we're doing on the other side of things, the Evolve to Excellence. That came from literally our own internal, like, oh, you just do a thing, and then you go, oh, next time I do this better or this different, but you have to do the thing first. You just have to allow it to evolve.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's that ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, fire.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And people
You can get that book done, Tiz.
Yeah.
Darn right, Slitha. Absolutely.
Start writing, sister.
Super exciting. And to put that in the values model, really, Tiz, it's getting clear on the level 5, so you can share it with the world level 6. And we're at the age where it's really time to hit that. Not because time is running out, it has nothing to do with that. It's because we have wisdom.
Yeah.
And we can translate our wisdom, our knowledge into wisdom, and teach others, or guide or create space for them to learn.
Yeah.
And so, that's really when Carson was talking about this community, it was like, he's been talking about this since the new year. And I'm all like, whatever. Why would anyone pay to hang out with me every month? And he's like, I don't care. We're doing it. 25 people sign up from the webinar. 25.
30. No.
30. Like, oh, shit.
Right on.
So it's doing it, just doing it, leaning into it.
Can I share one more little thing?
Yeah, of course.
Last week, I got a reach out from somebody I know, but not super well, like they're not super connected to me. And it was, I had done some coaching with them like super long time ago. And they approached me last week with a relationship challenge. So significant other, significant other, and something is flat in their organization. Oh my God, in their relationship. And
organization.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's not about, splitting up, anger, anything like that. It's just, I think, a couple of people that are astute enough to know, hey, something's different now than it was before, and that energy and whatever is kind of missing. And of course, I said, they were reaching out like, can you help? Can you, what do you suggest? And I, of course, said yes. And then you figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So here's what I am doing with them starting today, actually. We're going to use the IVAs.
Yeah.
And we're going to do the IVAs such that, and I've already framed all this for them. I said, we're going to do a little bit of an intro just so that you have, I already understand their context. And so now we're going to get together and I'm going to give you a little bit of context of this little process I'm going to put you through. Because ultimately, I think these IVAs could also be used very, very well in answering the question of what are you currently experiencing in your relationship?
Yes.
What do you desire in your relationship? And so that was an interesting little teeny weeny epiphany that went, well, isn't that timely how this just showed up last week as this course was wrapping up. And it was like, yes, affirmation, IVAs, you could probably use them in more situations than seem obvious. So
go ahead.
That's it. That's it.
We have 2 people coming to the certification in Salt Lake City. One from Canada, one from the US, completely don't know each other. They're both financial planners, and they're going to use it in their financial planning business with couples.
Oh, beautiful.
Carson has wanted so long to make this a dating app.
Yeah, I'm still working.
To get me a date.
I know. But Tiz, I had made this cool idea because I had the same thing. Like people just talking about it in a relationship, I think would be so powerful.
Yeah.
And I had this thing where I take, because you get the IVAs, and this is a lot of work, so maybe it's not worth it. But you get the 2 IVAs, and then I overlay them
Yeah.
on top of another on the same page.
Yeah.
So it's like anyways, I'm going to drop it in the chat just so people can see it. I don't think it's that helpful, but it
was cool. It's a great idea.
That sounds awesome, because my brain was kind of playing in that area of going, okay, well, now we need to marry these 2 together. Pun. And see what does all this mean, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be.
Tiz, it feels like a lot of positive energy. I'm excited. I'm so glad you were able to come.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Alex, what's your deal?
One, I apologize. I'm at my nonprofits day, and it's summer day camp, so there's kids running around the hallway. So if you're hearing a lot of screaming, that's what that is. So I'm at that office today.
What's on my desk right now? Okay. So if there's typing or I suddenly go dark, it's because he cannot stop sleeping on my keyboard, and I keep moving on my keyboard. He's such a pig. Anyway, so we all have distractions.
No problem. Awesome. Yeah, so for me, this whole experience, it seemed to line up very well with where I'm going professionally. So on that side of it, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I'm actually also about to start an executive coaching certification. And so with the Center for Executive Coaching. So I should be completed with that by October. So as I was going through just the LDR and the IVAs and looking at the culture of an organization, I feel like it's such a great complementary tool, to go with where I'm trying to move into doing more work with leaders and companies and or other nonprofits. And so I was just really excited, especially I love the LDR. And I think for executive coaching, I would want to build that into my package of every person I work with, does one of either the 360 or at very least an IVA. But I think too, the IVA, just even with some of the current coaching clients I have, there's 2 that I want to, that are sort of more at the beginning of their coaching, that I'm going to have them complete an IVA in this month at some point. I'll use one for the free, and then the other one just signed up. I'll just build that into her, to her program. So that's with the IVA. With the small group assessment, what I'd like to do, I told you I'm currently doing that training program with a group of executive assistants for a company. But what I'd like to do is try to meet with the HR manager again and talk to him about the complementary small group assessment and see, if they would want, I could do it with this group of 7 assistants, but would they rather, do it within one division because they're from all different areas of the company. So I'd like to meet with him and talk to him about that. So when Lisa was saying, she's looking for more information on what proposals could look like or pricing and things like that, that's definitely something I'm excited to learn more about as well, just how the best ways to go about, presenting this to someone for their organization. So those are my to-dos, as well as in 2 weeks, I'm meeting with Lori Madalena from Jack Canfield's program. And so Lori, does a lot of executive coaching and training. And so she and I are actually meeting to talk about how we could possibly collaborate or do some partner work together on the executive coaching side. And she's certified in 360s. And so I'm excited to share with her, more about the CTT tools and just see how we could.
She's certified.
She is certified in CTT as well. Okay, awesome.
Burke. She connects with Minnie Burke too. Friggin' amazing women.
Yeah, those 2 are.
Such good connections.
That's a great connection. She is legit.
Lori's the bomb.
Awesome.
So Lori and Mindy took Train the Trainer live together. They were friggin' standouts in the whole class like that year.
Oh wow.
Lori's daughter was actually supposed to be with us this time, but she just couldn't fit it in.
That's not, no. Lori Madalena, you're thinking of Laura Burgess.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Lori's certified, right? She came.
Yeah.
Yeah, in October. Yeah, she's you're with good people.
Yeah, great.
I should probably introduce you to Mindy. Lives out in your area too.
Yeah, I actually have met Mindy as well. We've done 1 or 2 mastermind days together at Lori's in DC with Mindy.
Okay, yeah, I freaking love those women. They're awesome. Yeah. Sometimes you meet people I meet some people in Train the Trainer. Tiz was in Train the Trainer the year I didn't do it. There's 1 year I didn't do it, but you came to my Good Food, Good Wine, right?
I sure did.
But then it was like, oh my God, where have you been all my life kind of thing. So people and the coolest, like, not that I like to work with men, but I prefer, anyway, it's time for women.
It's a lonely place. I have a male dog.
Yeah. He's neutered though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome. That's great. Alex, did I cut you off? Because I'm sure.
No, just the only other thing I was going to share that, so I'm going to look at, and Tiz, I actually was making a couple notes as you were speaking. That's something I want to do too, is kind of revamping my website and figuring out through that process, getting really clear on what do I do, where do I stand, moving into that level 5, and owning more and expressing what I really want to do. Which, this whole program in that sense also just came at such an awesome time. I'm actually meeting with my boss right after this call to tell him about my transition. And so I'm already a little shaky and nervous about it right now. And so having this program, leading up to that and through the LDR and just everything, it was so affirming at a time where, risk taking was my #1 requested value. So I get very nervous about anytime I'm about to take one. So I feel like this was just such incredible support and affirmation from a personal standpoint as well.
Great.
Very cool.
Good. And not on this call because it will overwhelm, but on probably the next call, Carson will introduce you to our resource center, and there's some sample proposals. And what I'll tell you is it's very, everyone is different, and you have to find your way through that. We provide some, feedback and support, especially on the group calls, but it's really, you just have to find your way on what the pricing and the sweet spot is with your client. I always, in the beginning, I think I've told you this, Alex, I can't remember, but because we've been talking for a couple of years now, maybe, I don't know, is to put I would like to test this with you. My price will be this, but I'll do it for this. I was talking to Mindy about that too. It just show them the value they're getting, but they're helping you get some experience. And the price, for example, when I met with a woman in San Francisco who's trying to get me connected in with Google, which will be cool. She said, well, what do you charge, for coaching, an hour, executive coaching? I said, well, I don't do a lot of that. I do a package, but if someone wants an hour of coaching, it's sort of between $400 and $500. I said, what do you charge? She goes, oh, minimum $7. And I said, well, that must be the San Diego market because that is not the Canadian market. So you have to feel your way through the market too. And she said, well, yeah, if you charge less than that, they'll think you're not good. They won't even look at you. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm happy to charge Google $700 an hour. Seems offensive to me, but it's above my comfort zone personally.
But lots of times it is usually a game of sorts. Not game maybe isn't the right word, but we have certain people like Washington, D.C., where the pricing conversation is way different than Calgary versus is way different than it's really hard. But one good suggestion is, especially at the beginning, set the price for what you want it to be. Like she said, this is what it normally costs, but I'm willing to work with you. But make that price what you actually want it to be. And if there's an understanding that it's newer or learning, I just went through this with a grad, and he was feeling sort of self-conscious about selling for the first time, which is normal, but it's worth it. And we support you through the unpacking of a survey. You can give great value to people. Yeah. Don't be afraid to charge for the first one. It probably won't be what you would charge in a year if you're just starting, but fucking charge. Why not? It's worth it.
Like,
Yeah.
what would be the typical charge? Like, if let's just say you're going to go in and work with, because someone approached me about working with, like, the county, like some of the leaders in the county. Like, let's say there's probably 20. Like, what would you charge to go in and do? You would probably do the small group assessment, which would be everyone would do an IBA, correct? And then what would you charge for the whole package? Because you're not just charging for what it costs through the merit, but you're
so it depends. It also depends on how long the engagement is. And Tiz, you might have some pricing to share too, because you've been in the consulting gig. For me, I do what we have come to with the Barrett Values tools is we upcharge between 15 and 20% now. We never used to, but because we're dealing with exchange rates that are so tenuous. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 25 on the dollar. But also the time I now add the upcharge for Carson's time in preparing and managing the survey. I still don't upcharge much. But then my fee to do consulting is $6,500 US a day. I'm putting in a bid to do a keynote, and it will be 10,000. But it, like, I have another client in Alberta who they buy en masse, and when they buy a whole 1-year project, it depends on, I don't go more than 18 in the project, or I need to bring someone else in, the pricing all changes. But they can get it for 5,000 a day. Plus on top of that, each one is a $4,500 coaching package. So it depends how many people, and I always charge for materials and travel, obviously on top. I don't pay for any of that. But that's my fee. I'm in the middle of the road. I am mid. I'm not high, I'm not low.
I also like to preface it.
One other thing, when I work with Washington, D.C., I'm working with the D.C. government, and they were, we're talking money, and I said, let's just not go back and forth. What do you pay? What is in your government budget to pay? Because I can either say yes or no, but I'm not going to do this back and forth thing. It wastes time. She goes, we have 5,000 a day. I said, I'll take 5,000. That's fine with me. It's like I can see huge volume coming out of the DC government because I get to teach them every year through George Washington University. So that's fine. If someone's buying volume, my price goes down. If someone's buying 1 day or 2 days, like this keynote, is $10,000 because that blows a whole week off for me. And I usually I sell 3 or 4 days in a week when I'm training. Sometimes 5. I'll work for 5. Like this client in Alberta, I paid for 5 days. So if someone's taking up my week, it needs to be worth it. But that's my own. Those prices come from before I had Carson as an overhead. So I have to re-look at my prices because he's overhead. I don't mean it in he's overhead, but I have to remember.
It's called a salary. It is overhead.
Yeah.
But I will want to say, she used to not charge for the Barrett tools themselves, as it was like a line item.
Upcharge. I did.
Didn't upcharge. I'm sorry. Did not upcharge. And if you want my advice, unsolicited, that's stupid. And don't ever do that because I take hours, preparing emails, checking the lists, communicating with the HR that this person did it, this person did whatever, this person did it twice. Then I print them and then I organize them. And you will do all of those things. And you are worth more than $0, just like me. But that really isn't smart. And it's just evolved from that. But if we were to give, I think, advice in hindsight, the 10-15% tack on doesn't change the world for a client, but it's just needed to simply break even. Even if you hired a VA to manage that list or whatever and paid that 15%, do that because it's real work, especially when we start doing 145 IVAs. Yeah. That's 145 emails, 145 line items to track. It's not hard.
Put an envelope and put their name on the envelope.
Exactly, stickers.
It's a lot. So we've changed that, and I didn't value it. Not that I devalued it, but I just did everything, and I would do those kinds of things because I work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off with that because I'm my daughter, a week on, a week off. So I would just oh, on my week home, it's just administrative work, and then I go train, and then now with having Carson, and someday I hope you all can have a Carson, is that when I'm home, I can now teach online and make money while he's doing the admin in the background. So it's changed the whole dynamic. But yeah, his time is now, I see it as very much my money.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when I have people, like some people from outside of, some in the CTT community, some outside, asking him certain things, I'll say, that is not a question you're going to answer one-on-one. That is a question they can bring to the call or put on Facebook. Like imagine him now getting calls from 70 people. I just have a quick question.
And before we set hard boundaries, I was getting a lot of phone calls, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
For the group even.
Yeah, and then it's questions that we're answering the same questions 10 times.
Yeah.
So we're really diligent, and so don't be offended when he redirects you to the Facebook group or the call, because we're diligent about that now, because that's his time, but it's also inefficient to answer the same question 10 times.
And so many people have, even, that's what's the best part about a community, is it's like it has momentum. It's like you ask the question and I might have my normal answer that's relevant to us, but then, you know, somebody, Kim Cruz, has this completely different perspective that's different and equally helpful, like, which I could never, Kathleen, it could never answer it like that. Yeah. That's why the community is working now, I think, because people are, anyways, it's multiple perspectives.
And we're more diligent in pushing it to the Facebook page or the community calls.
So what do you think the market is in this? I'll just speak for the States in general. What do you think the market is for this kind of work?
Can you give me one more context on the question? Like market for the fee, or good market, bad market? Like
for people wanting executive coaches to come in and leadership. I'm sorry, the bell's ringing.
Okay. Recess. Most executives in larger companies, they're required to have a coach. They're required to have coaching. I think it's a huge untapped market. There's lots of people who are coaching. This is just a different tool to bring in. I think it's huge. I think it's unlimited. I do, like Tiz, think the world is abundant. And I had when I was talking to Margaret from the Barrett Value Center yesterday, I said, I'm not ticked about this email because I think they're taking my people. It's not that. It's an abundant freaking place. But when you confuse the front end user about the product, no one's going to sell. And you are my product. Like, you are my user of my product I'm selling. So, so being clear, I sort of digress a little bit there, but the world is abundant. There's a lot of opportunity. It's how can we leverage this unique work that all people talk, watch the news. It's all about values. It's all about values rubs. It's all about, like, even the same values with different beliefs around them. There's so much potential. And now, my call yesterday, I learned they're starting to invest heavily in marketing the tool in North America. Like, they're really putting a whole bunch into promoting their tool in North America, because it's very big in like Brazil, South America, and Europe, Scandinavian countries. So they're making a huge investment, and it's a good time to be, in my opinion, to be a part of this community.
I have a more kind of practical sense of that. I do a lot of like market research and then Google search trends, things like that. So like when we're trying to figure out how to pitch something, it's like how many people care about this? And I think coaching, I might be slightly off with the figures, but it's, according to the International Coaching Federation, whatever it is, it's a $3 billion industry right now. And companies nowadays are more inclined to care about things like culture and human potential, because it's no longer, it's like how people build a phone or whatever isn't changing as rapidly as it once was. It's more important where you can integrate and increase efficiencies is with your people. Your human potential is outweighing your intellectual property, that type of thing. And
sorry.
businesses are understanding that more and more. But then it's this type of tool that really speaks to that executive that ultimately writes that check, is the perfect balance between having the right soft skills of coaching and also providing this tangible metrics to, measure and manage over a period of time is crucial. So as far as like selling this particular thing, it's a really great time to be able to say, like, I can help people reach their most potential and I can show you the numbers along the way. Go ahead, Tiz.
I heard something on the radio this morning. I'm not sure what it is that bothers me about this. Maybe it's just labels. It was referring to millennials. And it was on the radio. I think it was on the news clip, and I don't remember the source, but it was talking about how millennials are really teaching us how work needs to be different. And I think the study showed that millennials in 18 months can change a job, or on average, millennials change their job 3 times in 18 months or something like that.
Yeah, I've read.
And that the comment went on to say, because millennials are really looking for those places that align with their value. I just went, phew. Well, the part about the millennials was, no, damn it, so do I, and I'm not a millennial. And then the other part was like, yes, that's so people, yes, you see it in your children, you see it in your whatever.
It very much used to be, I think, previously, we won't digress too far on this, but people used to feel really good about having a job. That was great. They're super happy with a job. But I'm a full-on millennial. I'm 25 years old. I have never not had basically everything I've ever wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't worry about not having a job. I want a job that I like. And that's, I think, the perspective that this generation has, because there's more opportunity than ever before. So as far as an employer, that churn, that's expensive. So even as back to a business pitch of, what if your churn rate right now is at 15%? What does that cost you? And what if I made it 14%? And I bet you that covers your fee. These are the types of mathematics and conversations that help build a good pitch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to just put a bow on that, the thing to remember though about millennials, which what happens is we over-expect, because they do seem more conscious and they are more aware, and they still have to developmentally go through the stages. You can't skip a stage because you were raised in a home that gave you everything, not just every material thing, but one good thing about my husband, ex-husband and I, is we raise kids who are cool, good kids who are kind, who have self-esteem, because they were raised in that environment. But they still, like Carson, still things will pop up and we'll have tension, because it's like, I was going, Jesus, in my head, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, just chill a bit. But he's anxious about certain things because certain things trigger him. And then certain things I get irritated with. He's like, Mom, that's when he does the mom thing, not the Kathleen thing. Mom, like, come on, like, just, you need to do this. And I'm like, I don't really want to. I'm like, I'm tired. I want to rest. I'm like, old, So it's there. We can't ignore the developmental stages that the millennial, and I think, Alex, you're on the tail end of a millennial. Yeah.
I am a millennial.
Oh, you are a millennial. And like, there are developmental stages that they go through psychologically. And so I over expect from Carson. And then sometimes I go, oh shit, he's like 26. Damn, there he goes being young again. Just get it together, right? And then I have to stop myself. So that's how even that relationship thing that he sent you about overlaying the IBAs, when you have a chance to look at it, I see you've looked at it, Tiz, it's cool, is you can really look at the difference in developmental stages and have a conversation in a way that's fruitful and useful. Because I have to remember, even when I'm coaching someone, I did some informal mentoring with Alex over the last couple of years, I always have to remember, oh yeah, it's just like younger and, you know, in a different stage. Like, she'll see how great she is one day. I don't have to, you know, you can't tug at a carrot. She has to grow when she grows. And in the last 2 years, to see the transformation is amazing. And there's ways to go, right? You know, like getting married, all these kind of cool things that are happening. But very mature, conscious, aware. Let's leverage that shit.
Can I ask one other question too about the keynote? So you said you do keynotes. What would that be? How long of a presentation would that be?
Well, this one is a HR conference in Edmonton. Tis, by the way. I think it'll be to 1,000 people. And it'll be, I think I'm getting 60 or 90 minutes, somewhere like that. I don't want anything less than 60. I find that really a lot of pressure for me. But if if the Canfield team is selling me to do a keynote or a session, they sell me at $14,000 a day, but they take, you know, 30%. So I say, you sell it for whatever you want. This is what I want. And
so what would you do a keynote on? Are you doing it on the values? Or
I have all different ones I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, this one is, what's it called, Carson? What's the
How to
title?
thrive in uncertain times.
How to thrive in uncertain times. I don't even touch on the values, but I'm doing 2 breakouts, hopefully 2. I have 1 for sure, and I'll do PDAs in the breakouts. But how to thrive in uncertain times is just I started it this year, and it's really a good, it's a nice hit. It's smooth, but it's none of the values work and none of the Canfield work. It's my own.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll take another. We need to get on to the technical presentation. But Alex, what's your question?
I guess I just wanted to clarify, because I know you shared with us the last time, Kathleen, that you charge about $6,500 for around 8 sessions of coaching, and then I just heard you share $6,500 for a day of consulting.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you're starting out working with someone coaching, so you charge differently for a coaching price, and then if they want to do something like a SGA or CBA with their group, then that would be a whole separate package that you're charging for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's completely separate. In my intensive program, each leader, like the one I'm kicking off in September, they each have, each of the coaching is $4,500 per head on top of my daily fees and my expenses and the materials.
Okay.
I just wanted to say something we've come to, and I do think it was a good realization as far as that type of thing, is if you can make a type of, if it's selling like an experience or a coaching package, but whatever it is, if it's a package and it costs this much, that's your best bet. Something I think we used to do is, well, it's this much a day and this much for a survey and this much for a book.
Yeah,
It gets very complicated, and it doesn't need to be. Whereas now what we do, we have something called a culture ID is what we call it. And it's a short engagement. It's an SGA with an unpacking and a follow-up session. And this one's all online. Pardon?
On Zoom, online.
Yeah, online. But you could do something similar and charge whatever you want to charge for it. But we just say it's not an SGA costs this much of it or whatever. It costs this much to have this experience from us. And that works better. So as far as pricing of the tools,
people want to, you know, have like, I'll have the broccoli side and just a half a steak. It's like,
yeah. But if you line
for anything.
But if you line item things like that, it opens you up to say like, well, maybe I won't do the IBAs, but then it changes your whole experience that you're giving to somebody. So my suggestion is don't go there. Just say this is what it costs and this is what you get from it. Because they don't care necessarily about the details of the survey and what it costs. They don't care. They want, what are you selling me? So I think I can really connect your group, get in touch with your values, and have deep conversations about how to bring yourself to work. And
sell
it
the
costs
destination.
this much.
Sell the destination, not the journey. Okay, Carson, we got to wrap and get on with the BBC.
Right.
Good conversations, though. So Carson's going to take over the call, and I'm just going to watch and listen and learn because I haven't even been on this call before.
I just want to say I do have to get off the call at 12:25 because I have a meeting I have to go to.
This I will, okay, that's no problem, but I will tell you that this is meant, what?
They can watch this piece again too if they're not here for the whole thing.
Yeah, but this can be confusing, and me clicking through a website showing you where to go isn't necessarily that helpful. So what I want to do is give you an overview of basic areas, And the best thing to do is to then, go on and then explore it yourself. I can't show you everything. It's best to me to give you an overview, some really key areas, and then you explore it. So as far as like 10, 15 minutes, that's more than enough time. Just to be clear, if that makes sense. Am I sharing my thing?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So this is the Barrett Values website, valuecenter.com. And this is up here in the login. This is where you will go, and you should have all received your emails saying that you've, passed the course. So that's when you can create your login. It's all in that email. So you click login, you enter your information that you set. And this is basically the behind the scenes, My CTT is what it's called. And this is where you can set up surveys. And what I'm going to do is send you a video, a YouTube video. It's like 3 minutes. And it's how to set up a SGA. It shows you each step. It's just way easier to follow than me doing it. And also I have a video doing an IVA. And I suggest you watch it. And you can even test yourself and try and play with it. So I'm not going to walk through that. I'm going to send you the video. And then if you have questions, I think it's best to try it and we'll work on your questions after. But a big thing that I want to draw your attention to is the marketing materials. And where this has a lot of the interesting articles, some historical data, or if you're looking for something like, say, a pharmaceutical company reached out to you and you wanted some specific information regarding that sector, all of that lives here. And this website is poorly designed, and lots of people click here and they read this and they think, well, that's not very interesting. But what you do is, this is a menu, and this is to click on things. And the idea is this attention, interest, desire, action, and then deepen. So this is the attention section here. Is very broad information. And you can see here is what are my personal values, and it's basically a Word document of the PVA, but it doesn't matter. It's just, this is information to help you start having values conversations, building your unique elevator pitch. You click here, you'd click, and it would download. Okay? So another thing that I'll show you is the slide decks. So lots of you are asking about, starting to build your first sort of presentation or whatever. A good place to start would be the unique elevator pitch. It's basically a worksheet, along with downloading the master slide deck. And they're all Barrett slides that you can use or build off of or get reference from what other people have used. So this is the best place to start. And if you click through each of the tabs, there is just a variety of other information that you'll need. Barrett Values 7 levels. This is like handouts if you were to need it for a job or whatever. We print handouts, for example, on webinars. When people do a webinar, they get the handouts. That's basically from here. So this is the main area that I think you should all click onto and explore. So once again, when you log in through your My CTT, and then it's marketing materials, and then you can click through each of these tabs, and I suggest you just look through them. The next thing I wanted to talk about is on your welcome email, you're given instructions of how to complete your free IVA, or not free, but the one that you get included with your certification. And what I like to say is that is unique in how you have to do it, and it's not always like that. I don't know why they make the first one more complicated, but they lay out the instructions really well. So I suggest you read that email for when you're wanting to use your first free IVA. Another thing to note about the free IVA is it comes with a written report. And what that means is it comes with the IVA that you're accustomed to seeing with the dot plots and the values and all of that. But then it comes with a write-up, a Word document, for someone from the Barrett Values Center interpretation of the results. So in theory, it's a great place to start for you when you're learning, because you can see the plots and basically read what a very Barrett Values tool, values fluent person has to say about that plot. And it can really start you on a great path of takeaways for that client. And like I said, they could include that on that first free IVA. And if you want that for future IVAs, an IVA is $40, as we know, but to also have that written portion, Kathleen, can you remind me? But I believe it's $150 additional.
I think it's $240. And the reason why, when people are certified in the level 1, which is something you don't know anything about because you're fully certified in everything, they only can use the LDR, the IDR, and the IVA. And because they don't get the extra coaching in how to unpack things, the full report is $240 because they get the whole background report, but you don't need those because you have this training. You just get it for the first one so you can see what it's like.
Yeah, and most people like that do IVAs now don't use it. However, I do know one person that was a little bit nervous about this one particular client, and she also got it. Even though I think she was capable of doing it, it was good for her first few just to get it, and it helped her, and she thought it was worth it. And you might too, or you might not, but it's a great option. Okay, so like I said, that's your free IVA. It's a little bit different. All I can say is follow the instructions on the email. It makes it very clear. And then the video that you're going to get in the follow-up is me setting up a standard IVA that you will then continue to use. And not to confuse you at all, but that we set up one IVA and you're given a link that you can then use however many times you want. So it's not that if you want Sam, Jason, and Lisa to do an IVA, you don't make 3 links. You make one and you can use it. So for example, we have one standard IVA template that has been used thousands of times.
Do you show them what our it looks like with all the IVAs completed with that part? Do you go online to our My CTT? Oh,
I can, but maybe just because of clients, I'll log into mine and I'll show you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because we run all the business ones through Kathleen. But actually, I'll touch on this since I have you. An option through the Barrett is to do they call it a co-branded personal values assessment. And you can read about that in the price list, and I can show you that.
Carson,
I
wanted to focus the September call on that.
Okay. I just wanted to give context of what you're about to see. This is the personal values assessment that we've set up, and you can do the same. So we'll talk about it in September, but just to be clear, that's what you're about to see. It asks you to log in again, and this is called the control panel. And this is where all of your surveys would show up that you've created. So for me, we run all of our business ones through Kathleen, but we have the personal values runs through me. So if I click this is the unique link that's been created since we've made this survey. And then if I click here in responses, this is a list of everybody that's completed this personal values assessment, okay? And there's 37 pages. You can click through them. We can see everybody that's done it. And if you did an SGA, you would see the 20 people and, okay, yes, Dawn has done it. Take it off the list. Is that making sense? A little.
Yes, can I clarify, Carson? So with the PVA, if you were to, like when you do this on a webinar and you send it out to people that register for the webinar, you can always see who completed the PBA. No. Okay. That's only for
your personal link. You have to set that. That's why I'm going to talk about that in September.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is exactly.
This is a very advanced piece of the work that we've just learned. We're one of the very few who have done this. So I wanted to make a whole call about it. A couple of our, like right now, when people do the link, you don't see who's done it. It goes to the Barrett Value Center data, but they get their results. So you can still use it, but you have to bring results to the call.
Yeah. So like I said, that September call is going to be good because this is very helpful. Like we've had 1,800 people complete it. So a good marketing tool. So that's the control panel. And like I said, we only run the personal values through me, but if you did a, Caterpillar SGA, you set that up, that would be here. And you'd click it, and this would be the link that you use to send out to the people. If I click launch, it opens it in a new tab, and this is the actual survey. And it's the same whether it was a small group assessment or whatever.
Carson, can you just repeat where you found the responses?
Yeah. So on this is where you'll land. You'll always land here.
Yeah.
If you double click it just to basically select it, it'll start here on this tab. See the second bottom left?
Yeah.
But then there's a response tab.
Damn it. Okay, I missed that. Where's the response tab?
Am I missing it on my screen? Is it?
Or it's maybe too small.
So
is your cursor pointing to it?
Yeah, bottom left here.
I could see it, Carson. Then when you zoomed in, oh, there it is. Never mind.
Sorry, I can't see exactly what it looks like when I'm sharing, but maybe Kathleen, if you can be on deck.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now. I'm so sorry. Yes,
okay.
yes.
No problem. That's no problem. So yeah, there's the responses. And that's, like I said, if you did one thing I will say you're doing a cultural values assessment, a CVA, large scale, and you wouldn't be asking for people's name. So you obviously wouldn't get this information, but you would be able to see how many people have completed it and when. So
that's cool.
So say if you were expecting 500 to complete it, you would be able to look, here and see that 382 did it, and you can update the client. Great videos that you're going to get, as I said, is how to set up an SGA with very clear follow the bouncing ball video instructions of how to set it all up. It gets too confusing when I do it, but I suggest you watch that video, and I think it becomes very clear. And that, in the end, gives you one of these that you can then have a link for and all of that. So just to review slightly, you'll go to the Barrett Value Center, you'll log in through your My CTT, which will get you to here, and feel free to click around. In this assessment tab, for example, there's sample surveys. So if a client, lots of times they'll say, well, what would it look like? What will I get? Or maybe you're curious. There's assessment examples in here.
What about training materials? Did you talk about that?
So, yeah, good question. The training materials are things like the workbook. I don't think you get this tab. I'm in Kathleen's account, I think, so that's why that's there. But
well, they will get the participant CTT practitioner. They will at the bottom. They get the bottom one.
Yeah.
No.
Well, this will look the same to you. You can download any of these things.
Yeah.
Here is, for example, is the free SGA instructions even, which is cool.
Yeah, mine is just more comprehensive because mine also includes how I teach you.
Exactly. So it's a slightly different back end. But The network directory is one thing that's interesting. This is where you can find people near you. And you
tell them to sign themselves up.
Exactly. So you can see this button right here, edit my profile. This allows you to, it's, you know, like a web form, to create one of these little spots for you. So
and then what happens with that is if people are looking for someone in the Michigan area or whatever, your name will come up if you're in the Michigan area as an option. And so they put you on a map. And do you have the map handy, person? Or?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how to.
Anyway, there's a little pinpoint where you are and where the trainers are. It's quite a good visual, I think. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've got a few things from them. I've got, you know, it's good to fill out your profile because I've got a few hits.
Yeah, it takes 5 minutes, and we have been contacted through it. So definitely, why not? I actually am sort of embarrassed. I don't know where the map is. I've been there before, but anyways, I don't know where it is.
It's there somewhere, people.
Yeah.
But the key is, the first thing you all need to do is navigate around and get a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on another call, we can answer specific questions. But it's good to play with it yourself. Set up your MyCTT, the forums, the PowerPoints, and also on the next call, Carson will spend a few minutes talking about our resource center and how to access the materials. What we've done there is put what we see as the most used Barrett Value stuff on ours to make it easier and quicker, because this is a huge site to navigate. And then we put some of our custom PowerPoints up, and just like the LDR unpacking that I use, and basic framework for a proposal. But the first thing we want you to do is actually go on the Barrett site, because that's your place. We just support it because we just pick up on commonly asked questions and pop in our resource center. But this is really your go-to, although it's a challenge to navigate. We're not going to lie.
Yeah.
So we're not yet connected to your resources or to the Facebook group.
Well, I'll send you all the invite to the Facebook with videos. The CTT, we just like to first do theirs, because this, like what you get access to, this has everything. We used to do this call with both this and ours, and it just gets too much and you just forget. So we just like to do this one. And then next time we'll do ours.
Yeah, it won't be long, but it's really a layering, Lisa, because it's so much information.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
You won't miss anything, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're also going to ask you to do a profile on our directory. But the more important is to do it on theirs, because theirs is open to the world.
Yeah.
Ours is only open to our community.
Mm-hmm. So we'll get to that next time. So is there any other questions? I know, Lisa, you have to go. Thanks for staying.
Well, I just want to say thank you, because I feel even more excited today than I did last week.
Good.
I feel like this might be that path. It just seems very exciting. So thank you.
We'll see you on the next call.
Okay, bye guys. Have a great day.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye,
So
Lisa.
I'm happy
Bye.
I'm happy to answer any other technical questions that you have now. I hope it serves as just a general overview, and then you see that there's too much to explore for me to go through, but best for you to go and click around.
Yeah, it's good to click around and then ask questions. But so you should have received 1 or 2 emails from the Barrett Value Center. Not you, Tiz, you're already on. Yeah. Did you, Alex, receive anything from them yet?
I did. I actually got 2 emails each for like duplicates, but I did get them. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, that's what's supposed to happen. Okay.
Okay. Carson, I did have just a quick question, which maybe the videos, and I'm sure when I click around we'll speak more to this, but as far as payment goes for the assessments, do you pay up front when you set up the assessment?
No. Very good question. Okay, so this is a very good question. So let's talk about an IVA is the best example, because it's $40 per, but as I said, we've set up a link and we just send it to this person and they use it. So say you send it to somebody and they complete it, you will see it in those list of names, right? But you will have not been charged yet. Okay. So say I want to pull Alex's report. I would check that box next to Alex's name and then click IVA plot. A pop-up comes up saying, this is $40, do you accept? You click that, and then Barrett would then bill you. And they have a horseshit billing system, frankly, but they'll work it out with you. But it's not, you put a credit card on file and they invoice you, but
no, that's not fair.
It's crap.
The
That's
IVA,
not massive.
millennial talking.
Yeah.
The IVA is automatic. You set it up. The SGA, you usually get billed manually. They bill you manually for SGAs, CVAs, and LDRs. That's not on the auto pay, but I can do an IVA and it comes to me immediately. It used to be, I had to wait for them to send it to me. It's magic. It's great. It's a huge improvement, Mr. Millennial over there, wanting it faster and better.
Yeah, I'm sure it's better than it was.
I understand, Carson.
Yeah, but it's compared to like other things, but it really doesn't matter, like especially with an IVA. So one thing that's interesting, and this is totally sidebar, but one thing I thought was interesting is this might be bad. This might be my millennial showing, but you could in theory have people do an IVA as prospective clients. And then if they wanted to then unpack the survey with you, you could then say, okay, the package is $240. And then you pull that report, because you do not have to pay for them to complete it. You pay when you pull the report.
Okay.
And
So even if you had someone that, signed up, wanted to do it, and then say, someone that was in a seminar that was supposed to do it, and then they completed it, but they don't show up to the seminar. So you only pay when you pull a report, not for completed surveys. Like even after the fact, they won't charge you. Okay.
Yeah.
You should have your people paying in advance of the session anyway.
Sure.
Totally. But but it is important just from a billing perspective. It's not when you set it up. It's not when they complete it. It's simply when you click the button to send me the report. And what's great now about that is, say Alex has completed it. I see it. I check the box. Please, yes, I'll pay the $40. They deliver that to your inbox as a zipped PowerPoint file in a minute.
Yeah.
So there's no delay or anything with that. So that's very good.
Okay.
One other just high level reminder, people complete an IVA, they are not sent anything. Only you get the results, versus the personal values assessment, you receive nothing and they get it to the email they provide. Just another reminder of that.
And that's true for all reports, like the SGA, LDR, CVA, you get sent those, everything except the PVA?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good question though. The billing question is important. The videos, like I said, are really good. It's me just walking through it, and it's just best to watch it. And then you can, as I said, so you go through the setup process. It asks you questions effectively of how you want it set up, who's it for, that type of thing. I suggest you do that, but don't at the end, which you'll know what that means, don't click submit, because then that gets sent to the Barrett Value Center and then they contact you. But you can go through almost all the setup process to see it without submitting, so you can get a feel for exactly what I do. I believe I even do that on the video. I go all the way and then effectively cancel. But that's the best way to see all the options, because we didn't talk about this a lot, but you can customize IVAs. You can change the values choices, and all of that is done through that system, and you can see that. And you're charged an extra fee to customize an IVA. I think it's $200, but then once that's set up, it's still only $40 to run that through. Does that make sense?
So if you use it again for another company, your customized version, you only pay once for the customization.
That's exactly right. So effectively, say you pay $200 to make this custom IVA link, like the custom that you made all your changes to. Then you can send however many people you want through it, and it's only $40 per. It's almost just as a custom setup fee is that $200. and then you can run people through it all you want.
Can I ask Carson, what is it that makes you decide to customize an IBA?
It's a good question. So there's not a whole bunch of reasons initially. Say for a bigger client of ours that wanted, we did a group of their leaders and they had set values. So they wanted those implanted into the IBA to then see how many people choose their values. And 2 of their values didn't exist on the normal template. So that was then a customization.
Okay.
But that's ultimately kind of what it comes down to. I've heard that nobody customizes IBAs like we do. So that's another thing that it's something different, but I think it's great. But it's something that doesn't seem other people seem to do according to the Barrett Value Center. In there, you can change the questions. So you did an IVA, you remember back at the beginning, you're asked, what are 10 values or behaviors that describe who you are, not who you want to be? Please, and then the second question is, please describe 10 values that you're currently experiencing in your workplace culture, and then desired culture. That's not verbatim, but you get it. You can change those questions. And that is
that part of what you have to pay for with the customization?
Exactly. As soon as it's, if you think about it, as soon as it's not what they already have made, you get charged the $200.
Okay.
And like 99% of the time, a standard IVA template works just fine. It's just if you want to, it's very cool, and it's $200. Something to note is if you were, say you were using this as a standard, every person you did executive coaching for, they did this special IVA link. You could then finish like the thank you screen. You can customize that. It's just another block of text. You could say, thanks for taking the whatever. I'm drawing a blank for your company name.
PACE Success Coaching.
Exactly. Thank you for completing the PACE Success Coaching Individual Values Assessment. If you want to contact us, here's my email or phone number, or it could just say, thanks, here's a website. You could do whatever you want to do. Unless you guys are rushing away, I can show you how to visually customize. I don't know if you saw, but we have a
I have to go, Carson, so I'll let you finish this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I do have that meeting coming up with my boss in about 15 minutes.
No, that's okay. So, but you can customize the look of it as you might have seen for ours. You can do that too.
We're going to talk about that in September.
But we'll talk about that in September too.
Well, everybody else will need to know this. These are questions they're asking us. Anyway, we can talk about it later, Carson, but I have to go.
Okay, then we'll end it.
Okay.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Carson, I have a question for you, and it's a slightly off topic. I need to buy some shadow boxes, and I'm just looking at that light you have behind you. Is that, do you use that as a shadow box?
Well, I'm glad you think it's a shadow box, but that is a lamp with a sombrero on it. But we have lighting and stuff that we bought on Amazon that we use at like Kathleen's house for video shoots.
Okay. So without wasting too much of your time, would you be willing to share that? Is that something you want me to ask on the Facebook page?
No, I'll send you a link of what we have. No problem. I'll just email that to you.
Perfect. And if you happen to have if you're using a what do you call that? A backdrop? Yeah, anything along that lines to prepare myself for a podcast type thing down the road. I'm not in an urgent rush, but that would be really helpful.
Yeah, we have a green screen, and we also have, but that gets into things if you're going to do that sort of thing. But I'll send you everything you could possibly need, and you also literally the best part about podcasts is you do not need a single thing. You could do it with what you already have, but I will send you also the luxury kit.
Okay.
Sound good?
Okay, that sounds great. I know that I need lighting because, you know, as much as this is the best place and connection, internet and all that kind of stuff is here for me, lighting's not good. What's going on in the background is noisy, you know, that sort of thing.
For
If
sure.
I have to do this somewhere else in the house, fine, but then I'm on Wi-Fi. So I don't know if I could do something that would improve this would be a better place.
Yeah, no, green, like a screen backdrop, they work really good. I'll send you some options.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, and I don't want to waste too much of your time on that. So if it's a quick 5 minute or 4 is great.
Because, yeah, and like I said, I'll send you what's really good, but you don't need everything. So don't think like, oh, I have to buy this or whatever.
So I don't need to have a sombrero is what you're saying.
You don't need that. It's optional, but highly recommended.
Perfect. Perfect. And awesome that you're doing this. Alex, I don't want to keep you, but I just want to say awesome that you're doing this. I know that at the very beginning, having been in the second course, that people were really freaking out about the Barrett site. And I will admit well, first of all, I saw it as a very positive thing. I couldn't believe how much information this organization was sharing. Yeah. And that to me really put a positive tone on the whole thing. And I didn't get stuck in the overwhelm. It was just you know what? Invest a little bit of time, sit down uninterrupted, float through that site, familiarize yourself. Don't worry about knowing where and remembering everything.
Yep.
But just get out of a story about overwhelm about that site as fast as possible. But the fact that you're doing this and then pulling out key things and putting them on the Facebook, like triple, quadruple thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is great. Like it is a poorly designed website, but it's also not easy to organize the amount of information they share. So it's not really like their fault in a way, but it's just the best thing to do is try and show the highlights, but then you just click around. So
perfect.
Well, and I thought today was very helpful, Carson, just seeing you highlight what's in what. It was like, oh, okay, I can see now how I could find what I need to find. Will take some time, but even that I just thought made it a lot less overwhelming to me from the outside. So.
Yeah, that's good. And we used to go through like almost each thing, and then this became confusing. Well, we only done this one time. So this is the second time, but it's best, I think, like you said, is just highlight and then say, watch the video and come back with questions. Because you will have questions and that's totally fine. But if I do what I did before and go through each survey setup, it's a lot. So great.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Thank you both.
Yeah, thanks.